And welcome to Noble Character Crafts. My name is Amy and I'm coming to you from eastern Nebraska where I live with my husband and our 5 children. Today is Friday, December 2nd, 2022. A huge welcome to any new or returning viewers. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you really enjoy this episode. This is a channel all about my crafty life, and today I have knitting and crocheting to share with you all. You can find me online on Instagram and Etsy at Noble Character Crafts, and you can get in contact with me through my email at noblecharactercrafts@yahoo.com. I will have links to all of the places that you can find me in the description box below, as well as the show notes for this episode. So today I have quite a few finished objects to share with you all, and a few works in progress as well. The first of which is this headband that I knitted for myself. I did my own thing for this headband. I did not follow a pattern. I cast on 56 stitches using a provisional cast on. In the end, it wasn't necessary for me to use a provisional cast on, but when I first started it, I wasn't sure how I was going to be joining it in the round. But anyway, I cast on 56 stitches and then I just knit a 1x1 ribbing, and I was knitting in the round a long tube. I used some mystery yarn that I had picked up at my local thrift store. I'm pretty sure it is worsted weight, and now that I have used this headband, I was pretty sure that it had some wool content in it. And I'm really confident of that now that I have worn it a lot. I can just tell by wearing it that it definitely has at least some wool content, if not 100% wool. But it wasn't marked, or it was marked incorrectly actually. There was a label on it, but it was definitely not the right label for this yarn. It said it was a super bulky green colored yarn, the label did. So that was definitely not correct. So anyway, I used a US 5 3.75 millimeter needle, and then I knit it until it was a total of 20 inches long, and then I used a joining technique using I followed a tutorial called the Twisted Ear Warmer Crochet Tutorial by Crafted by Cat, which I will link to in the description box below. My friend Tina had sent me that link, and also another viewer of the episode where I had first talked about this ear warmer and how I wanted to kind of put a twist into it when I joined the two ends together, had also suggested that I do this type of a twist. I couldn't find that suggestion when I was finally ready to do the twist. So anyway, Tina had also sent me a link, so I followed that one. And basically what it does is you take your two ends and you kind of sandwich them together like this. So if these were the two flat ends, you fold them both like this and sandwich them like this, and then stitch through all 4 layers, if that makes sense. You can definitely check out the tutorial if you're interested, because I'm probably not explaining it I'm definitely not explaining it as well as the tutorial does, because it's really clear to see in the tutorial how it's done. Now in the tutorial, the headband that she has made is only a single layer of fabric, and it's also crocheted, but it's still the same idea. Mine was double thick, but I just did the same technique. Anyway, it really makes this pretty twisted knot on it that I just love. I think it just finishes it off beautifully, and it's stitched together on the inside, so that's not so beautiful, but it doesn't matter because no one sees that. So it is twisted together on the outside like that, and I am just so pleased with this headband. It turned out perfectly for me. It's just what I wanted. I wear my hair up in a bun like this a lot of the time, and when I take my dog for walks, it's just really nice just to be able to throw this on. It's super warm. Since it has a double thickness of worsted weight material, it has just worked out really beautifully. I'm not exactly sure if the ribbing was necessary. I think maybe it would have worked out just as well if I had done it all in stockinette stitch, but maybe it gives it a little bit more stretch to go around my head, but I'm not sure because it's more stretchy widthwise rather than lengthwise, but it is also stretchy lengthwise a little bit. Anyway, it just slips on so easily, and it covers my ears wonderfully. I just love it so much. It gives me so much warmth when I'm outside. It's great. I am so happy with how this turned out, and I have gotten a ton of use out of it already. The last time I recorded was exactly 3 weeks ago on a Friday, and I finished it the next Monday, so just 3 days later, and I've worn it every single day since I finished it. So I've gotten a lot of wear out of it. I never actually technically blocked it. I just started wearing it, and it's worked out beautifully. Now, it did have a bit of a little, well, kind of a bad catastrophe happen to it. And this happened just on the 25th of November. I had accidentally left this on a lower shelf in our house where our puppy dog could get to it. Now, our dog is an outside dog, but she does come inside to go to sleep at night. And she has a little penned-in area in our basement. And I left this on a shelf where she could reach it. And she wasn't supposed to be inside, but my son had let her in for a little while because he had wanted to fill in some holes that she had dug outside, and he didn't want her to mess with them while he was doing that. So he brought her inside for a little bit, and he told me, but I hadn't even thought about it because earlier that day I had left this headband on the lower shelf where she can reach it. And normally I put it way up high so she can't reach it because she's just a puppy and she's a lab and she's huge, but still just a puppy. So anyway, she got a hold of this, and I will insert a picture of what she did to this headband so you can see that she wreaked havoc on this headband, and I was so upset. I was like, oh no, why did this happen? But the saving grace is that it was only this terrible mess of a hole that she made was only on the inside of this headband. And I was able to patch it up. So the outside of the headband is completely fine, and the hole that she tore was right here on the inside. So it was still a bit of a mess, and it was a challenge to try to make this patch. I don't think I've ever done anything like this before, but I have watched a few different people, maybe like tutorials of people trying to fix holes in their knitted things. So I had a little bit of an idea of how to do it. I just picked up stitches down here at the bottom where the live stitches were loose, and I picked up what I could, and there were a lot of drop stitches, of course, and so I picked them up as well as I could. And then there were a lot of torn pieces as well, and I ended up just pretty much knotting a lot of pieces together that were torn, and they're all on the inside, and I didn't weave them in or anything. I just tied them in knots so that they would be secure and left them on the inside of the work. And then I just continued in the 1x1 rib so it would try to match, but it doesn't match perfectly. But then I would just kind of slip stitches on the sides and knit stitches together to try to connect them all. So I basically just knit this little panel, and as I was working up, I would slip stitches and knit two together, for example, to connect them to the sides. And then once I got up here to the top, I just kind of Kitchenered those stitches together with the other live stitches that were up here. So it's not beautiful, but it works, and no one can see it. So what are the chances that my stinkery little dog would tear a hole in the headband, but the outside is completely fine. So it's all right. And it still now it's all fixed, and it still works beautifully. And I can't feel it or anything like that. So it's just fine. It took me quite a while to make this headband, but it's just because I kept putting it down. Once I stayed focused on it after my last episode, I was able to finish it up pretty quickly. So I'm so glad that I made this, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. It's just such a useful item to have. So I'm super happy with that. All right, my next finished object is the baby blanket that I was working on the last time I recorded an episode. I can't quite remember where I was last time I recorded, but oh, I forgot to say what I'm wearing. I am wearing the sweater that I knit last December. I started this last December using my advent calendar that I had received in a swap from Emma of Potter and Bloom. I've noticed lately when I'm editing, I always talk about Emma, but when I say her name of Potter and Bloom, I say in, like, you know, like hyphenating the word and, I'm saying Potter and Bloom. And it sounds like I'm saying the word in, like I-N instead of and. It's just bothering me. Every time I do it, I'm like, it sounds like you're saying Potter in Bloom, but it's Potter and Bloom. So anyway, I was just annoyed with myself for that. So anyway, the swap that I did with Emma of Potter and Bloom last December, and I talked about this item as a finished object in episode 137, which I will also link in the description box below if you want to find out more details about this. I followed a pattern for the cast on stitches, but then I'm pretty sure that was the only thing that I followed. But anyway, I will link to that episode in case you're curious about how I made this sweater. But I really, really like it. I didn't finish it until the spring probably, or really late winter this year. So I didn't get a ton of wear out of it before the weather warmed up. So I'm excited to get wear out of it this winter. I just really love it. The cuffs are not matching, even though you can't really tell, but I used half of the colors in this cuff and half of the colors in this cuff. So they're actually not matching at all, but they still look like they are kind of, right? So like every other color, I switched back and forth between the sleeves. Does that make sense? So it went in a gradient, you know, like a rainbow color order. And then when I did the sleeves, I just did colors 1, 3, 5, 7 on one sleeve, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 on the other sleeve. So anyway, I just love how it turned out. Okay, on to this baby blanket. This is a beautiful vintage stitch pattern. And I learned about this stitch pattern also from Emma of Potter and Bloom. And she put up a tutorial on her YouTube channel showing how to crochet this beautiful checkerboard stitch. And she also just came out with a free pattern on her blog where she made a cowl scarf using the same stitch. And she actually used up the advent swap that I had sent to her for her cowl. So that's pretty cool. And anyway, it's available on her blog if you want to check that out. A way to use this stitch to make a advent cowl type thing using an advent calendar or any scraps that you have. So anyway, that is absolutely beautiful as well. Anyway, I followed her tutorial for how to stitch up this checkerboard stitch pattern, but I wanted to make it into a baby blanket. So I started off with a chain of 133 stitches, and I changed colors every second round, every 2 rounds. So I did one color for 2 rows and then switched colors. The total pattern is a 4-row repeat. So half of the pattern repeat is in one color, and then I switched halfway through. And that's what gives you this beautiful stripy design. And I just love it. I had so much fun working this up. I used all worsted weight acrylic scraps, and it was so much fun to be able to use up all these scraps, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So you can probably tell that the stripes are really, really random. There's no order to the stripes at all. I just used up what I had, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I'm not going to go through all the different yarns that I put in here because there's quite a few, and I don't even know what a lot of them are because they were just little scraps, but I'm really happy with how this turned out. I did a total of 45 stripes, I should say. So 90 rows total. And then I used I do know this purple color is a Knit Picks Brava in the mulberry colorway. And so I used that. I had the most of that color. And since I had started with that color, and I was able to finish with that color. It just worked out to use that for a border color as well. So I thought it would be nice to finish off the sides with that same stitch. And it worked out really well to be able to join them at every color join I did. You can see that this shell-like pattern is joined right here where the colors change. And then this stitch is the next part of the pattern, and that's also where the colors change. So I was just able to join every time there was a color change, and that laid really beautifully along the edges here. So I was super happy with how that finished it off. I think it looks really great. I do not know who this will be going to. I just really enjoy making baby blankets and having them on hand. And then whenever I have the opportunity to gift a baby blanket, then I have them. I don't have, I have a few baby blankets in my stash to gift, but there's 2 in there, I think, and they're both really more appropriate for a girl baby. And of course, this one is too. My boy baby blankets have been given away already, and I need to make more of them, but I just had all these girly colors, and I really wanted to work them up, so I did, and it was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed working up this pattern. So that was a super fun project. I was also able to finish up these socks. These are my Scrappy Stripey socks. I joined in the knit along that Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady hosted for her Scrappy Stripey socks. She had originally kind of come up with this idea to use some scraps or a mini skein set to stripe in at the top or on the leg of a sock, and then to also add in smaller stripes right before the toe. And she was hosting a pretty casual knit along on Instagram that finished up at the end of November, I believe. And I was happy to join in with that knit along, but it did take me quite a while to get these done. I cast on 60 stitches using a US 0.2mm needle. And then I did a 2x1 cuff, so knit 2, purl 1 on the cuff for 25 rounds, which is a little bit longer than I normally do. The yarn that I used is Knit Picks Stroll in the Rainstorm Heather. Is that right? Yes, Rainstorm Heather colorway. And then for the stripes, I used a mini skein set that I was gifted by my friend Michelle from Molly Klein Design. It was called the Songbird Eggs Sweet Tea Yarns mini skein set. And it came with these 6 beautiful colors, and I did 10 rounds for each of those colors. And then I knit 5 more rounds before I started the slip stitch heel flap. And then when I started the stripes, it worked out that I was also starting the slip stitch pattern that I always add into the ball of the foot on my socks. And so I always add this in on my socks because I have a tendency to wear holes in that section of my socks really quickly. And this has proven to be a really helpful addition to my socks to help prevent wearing holes in my socks so quickly. So I just do basically the same idea as what you would do on a slip stitch heel flap. I do slip 1, knit 1 on the bottom of the foot for 1 round. And then on the next round, I just knit all the stitches. And then every other round, I do slip 1, knit 1 only on the bottom stitches of the foot. And it gives this slip stitch detail to the ball of the foot. I usually do it for about 30 rounds. And so that worked out well because I had 6 colors for my stripes, and I did 5 rounds of each of those colors, so it worked out perfectly. And then I just did a rounded toe. I don't know if you can hear my voice might sound a little bit sick because we all, except for one of my children, got a cold last week for Thanksgiving. Basically, our Thanksgiving plans were canceled because we were all sick except for my eldest son. And this is the 2nd year in a row where we've all gotten sick around Thanksgiving and had to cancel our Thanksgiving plans, which is really unfortunate, but it did make for a really relaxing Thanksgiving. So I guess that's the silver lining in there. But anyway, you maybe can still tell because I'm kind of stuffy still. I'm just noticing that I'm probably sounding that way in case you can hear that in my voice. I'm a lot better, but I'm still, holding on to a congestion, I guess. Anyway, I am so happy with how these turned out. I think they're super fun and they were a lot of fun to work up. So I'm so glad I was able to get those finished up. And I was also able to finish these socks. Oh, they're so bright. These socks had been on the needles for way too long. I had cast them on in August and just finished them recently. So I really love how they turned out though. They're super fun and bright. They'll be great to brighten up the dreary winter days. So that's fun. I cast on 60 stitches for these as well using US 0 2mm needles. And I just did 20 rounds of 2x1 ribbing for these, which is my normal ribbing. The yarn that I used for these is Sweet Mountain Crafts in the Summer Snow Cone. Now I can't remember. Yeah, that's right. Summer Snow Cone colorway. She had gifted me that a long time ago. So I just had a few scraps of that left over and was able to use up some of those for the cuffs, heels, and toes. And then for the rest of the color, I used a Knit Picks Felici in the Golden Hour colorway. And whenever the color changed, I did a slip one, knit one round for the color change. And I love how that turned out. I've done that before, and it's just kind of a fun addition to add to socks, to self-striping socks, just to give it a little bit of detail. I like how that turned out. I did again a slip stitch heel flap and gusset, and again added in 30 rounds of the slip stitch texture on the ball of my foot. Rounded toe again, Kitchener the toes as usual. So these are also for me, and I love them. They're super fun. I just mentioned last time on my episode that I needed to organize my closet. I have two closets, as you can see here. This is for my clothes, and so I did get to organize that and went through all of my, got to organize all of my knitted sweaters and all of the things. I did find that headband that I was missing, but I'm still so happy with the one that I made because the one that I was missing is made using granny squares, and so it's just not as warm because there's more holes in it. It's only a single layer, but anyway, I found it, so that's great. And this is the cupboard where I keep my yarn, and I found the bag that I have all of my Knit Picks Felici in, and I have 11 different colorways where I have enough yarn to make a pair of socks. And so my hope and plan is for 2023 to knit through all of my Knit Picks Felici yarn. So I have it all planned out to do January through November, a color way for each month. And hopefully I will do that because I have a lot of Knit Picks Felici in my stash that I just would really like to use up. So I'm hoping to make that part of my plans in 2023. I think that is all for those. Yep. Okay, I have two more finished objects, both projects that I started and finished between last episode and this episode, so I hadn't even shown them off since last time. So the first one is pretty big. I was quite surprised myself that I was able to finish this. So I have made a crocheted afghan for my mother-in-law as a Christmas present. I am so happy with how it turned out. It was such a joy to make, which is why I was able to work it up so quickly. I was able to make it in 10 days from start to finish, and I really was very much focused on this blanket during those 10 days, and so that's probably, contributed to how I was able to make it so quickly. I am able to crochet pretty quickly, and this is all in worsted weight, and is a very easy and fun pattern. I loved working with the colors that I picked out, and it was just so enjoyable to work on, so I was able to work it up really quickly, and I'm so happy that I was able to. I love how it looks. It's so pretty. Well, my mother-in-law was over here a while ago. I don't remember when, but several weeks ago. And she noticed this blanket on our blanket rack, which I crocheted a while ago using up a bunch of scraps. I can't remember if I test crocheted this pattern or if it was just gifted to me by the designer. I think I test crocheted it for her, but anyway, this is a pattern called Show Off Your Colors by Andrea Delhey, and I absolutely loved making this blanket as well. This one I crocheted using lots and lots of scraps. I'll stand up so you can see it better. This was all made using worsted weight scraps in, I'm pretty sure it's all 100% wool yarns. A lot of this is Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes. There's some of my own hand-dyed yarn in here as well. But as you can see, the colors really, you know, some of the rows you can see that I ran out of one color and just switched mid-row. I just was completely using up scraps for this blanket. Anyway, my mother-in-law was over here several weeks ago, and commented on how she thought this blanket was so beautiful. And I had already had it in my mind that I thought it would be nice to make her a blanket, because I have never gifted her a blanket, and I just thought that she would really appreciate it. I've gifted her a lot of handmade things, and she is always very appreciative of what I have made for her. So that encourages me to make more for her. And I just really thought that maybe she would like a blanket. And then she complimented this specific pattern, and I was like, perfect. I will make her one of this pattern. So let me see. On this one, I made this one. I started it back in 2018 and I finished it in 2021. The original pattern, it's originally written to be used up fingering weight yarn, and so I know I had adjusted this to use worsted weight, and I used a J6mm hook. For this original pattern, I chained 161 foundation stitches. Not chained, you do a special stitch that she links to in the pattern where you're doing a double crochet foundation stitch. So anyway, I started with 161 stitches for this one, and it made a pretty wide blanket. Definitely good for two people to use. Probably would fit on a double-sized bed. Wouldn't hang over the edges probably, but I bet it would pretty well cover a double-sized bed. Anyway, I made my mother-in-law's a little bit more narrow, but only by 2 repeats of the pattern. So this is used every day pretty much in our home, at least during the colder months. And if I have washed it on a gentle cycle in our machine, cold gentle cycle, and then I just lay it flat to dry, and it's done really well. Since a lot of this yarn is non-superwash wool, the majority of it is. There's some yarns in here that are superwash, but the majority of them are non-superwash. But anyway, I know I have laundered this in our washing machine without any problem of it felting or anything. So that's really great. Anyway, for my mother-in-law's blanket, I started off with less stitches. I started off with 149 stitches. And so it's a narrower blanket, but not terribly, not a lot more narrow. And I just absolutely love how it turned out. Go ahead and stand up so you can see it a little bit better, hopefully. I'm trying to see through the stitches. Yes, there you can see the bottom. And there we go. So it's a nice long length, and it'll be great for her to use as a throw, I think. I'm so happy with how it turned out. Now the fun thing about this pattern, I don't know if you can tell, but each side kind of shows off the colors a little bit differently. So this side shows off the lighter colors more vividly, and then on this side, the dark colors pop a little bit more. I don't know if it's as visible on camera as it is in person, but in person you can really kind of tell that one side is darker and one side is lighter. I don't think it's very visible on camera though. I again used a J 6mm hook for this. I used all worsted weight yarn, and I used all Hobby Lobby I Love This yarn for this blanket. I had 10 colors. So the 10 colors that I used are coffee, the cream is called Ivory, this variegated is called High Sierra Stripe, then this beige color, or tan color I should say, was called Light Taupe. There's this marled dark brown and cream color, which was called Marled Mocha. Then the next variegated colorway is called Sand Dunes. This is just called brown. It's just a lighter brown color. Then the next variegated color is called Birchwood Cottage. Desert Dust is this lighter brown kind of marly colorway. This one that has a lot of blue right here is called Naturals Stripe. And then it goes back to the coffee again. I just really love how all of these colors worked up together. It was fun to work with a lot of the yarns that had variegated colors in them. So you see a lot of color shifts in some of the yarns. And I just think it worked up really well. So I just repeated those 10 colors in order over and over again. I think I did a total of 12 repeats of the colors, and I believe there's 24 repeats of the stitch pattern across as well. So I did not do any edging border on this. I think it looks nice as is. I crocheted over my ends as I was working it, so I didn't sew in any of the ends, and hopefully they will stay well enough. Nothing's poking out right now, so I think it's okay. Hopefully it will hold up. If it doesn't, I live near my mother-in-law, so I will mend it as needed. Okay, so I started this early thinking it might take me a while to make this in time for Christmas, but it worked up just so quickly, which is makes me so happy I was able to get this done in time. So this is just ready and waiting to be gifted to my mother-in-law for Christmas. So that is very gratifying. I hope she loves it. All right, my last finished object is a sweet little pair of mittens. So if you recall in the last episode, I had made a poncho type thing for some family friends, and they have 8 children in their family. And one of their other children, another girl, is 12 years old, and she had bought this yarn at Hobby Lobby. It was called Yarn Bee Authentic Hand Dyed Luxe in the Ocean Ripple colorway. And she had asked if I would make her a pair of socks originally, but this yarn doesn't have any nylon in it. It's just 100% superwash merino wool. I'm sorry, it's 99% superwash merino wool, and then it has 1% metallic polyester in it for a little bit of sparkle. But anyway, I haven't had any luck with socks that do not have nylon in them. I have worn holes in those socks that I have made in the past that didn't have nylon in them so quickly. And so I shared that with her, that probably wasn't the best yarn to use for socks. I said I could make you socks, but they just might not last very long before you might wear a hole in them. And I suggested that maybe it would be better to make mittens or something like that. And she thought that mittens sounded great, and so asked if I would knit her up a pair of mittens. I decided to hold the yarn double. It's a fingering weight yarn, and I decided to hold it double to make these mittens just so that they would be a bit warmer. I thought that fingering weight yarn would be just too thin for them to be warm enough for mittens, so I held it double so I got more of a DK weight. And I used the World's Simplest Mittens pattern, which is a free pattern by Tin Can Knits. And I made the child size based on the measurements of her hands. She is 12, but she's pretty petite for a 12-year-old. She's got very beautiful, delicate little hands. And anyway, I took her measurements, and her measurements fit in the child size mittens. Her fingers are a bit longer though than the child size. So they're really thin, but they're longer. And so I actually did follow the adult small measurements for the length of both the thumbs and the length of the fingers. So I cast on for the child size, but then knit them a bit longer. Hopefully they will fit her. I haven't had a chance to, see her since I've made these. I'm really hoping that they will fit her well. I think they turned out so cute though. I just absolutely love how they look. I pretty much followed the pattern except for, adjusting the length. For the needles, I used the recommended needle size, so US 3.25 millimeter for the cuffs, and then switched up to a US 5, 3.75 millimeter for the rest of the mittens. They worked up so quickly. I was able to make these in just a couple of days. And yeah, it only used 48 grams of yarn. They're so cute and fun. I'm just super happy with them, and I hope that you love them, Abby, if you're watching. So cute. So that, I think, is all I have to say for those. Yeah, I highly recommend this pattern. As I said, it's free, and it comes in a ton of sizes for the whole family, basically. So definitely check it out, and if you would like to make up a quick pair of mittens, and it also comes with instructions to use fingering weight, definitely DK, of course, and then I think worsted. Yeah, I've used this pattern to make a worsted pair of mittens, and maybe even a thicker yarn yet, more bulky maybe. I can't quite remember, but lots of sizes and lots of different weights of yarn available for these mittens, so they're super great. Those are all of my finished objects. So on to my works in progress, which I have 4 of, and they're all new cast-ons. The first is being held in this bag that I was gifted by Emma, again, from Potter and Bloom. And I love it. It's a Christmassy bag that she gifted to me. It has Merry Christmas fabric on the inside, which is so fun. And this is a gift for my mom. She had requested this. Several years ago, I don't even remember when or where I got this set that I had gifted her several years ago. I gifted her a fuzzy pink set. It had a hat and a scarf. And it's really cute, light pink, and has like Angora or mohair or something in it. It's really fuzzy, and she loves it and wears it all the time. And then when her mom, my grandmother, passed away, she inherited a hat from my grandmother that was similar to the pink one, but in a cream color, like, just undyed yarn, basically. And she really wanted to have a scarf to go with it, and had been looking for one, and then realized, oh, duh, my daughter knits. I can just ask her to knit me a scarf to go with my hat. So that's what I am working on. So she gave me the measurements. She wants it to be like the pink one. So it's 10 inches wide and 65 inches long. And I am just doing a very simple garter stitch scarf. So I cast on 40 stitches, and I'm just doing garter stitch. I'm using 2 undyed yarns, using a worsted weight 100% non-superwash merino wool, along with a lace weight silk mohair, both undyed. And I am using US 8 5mm needles. All of the needles that I use are Chowgu red lace, and it is pretty long already. I don't know how long it is, but I'm over halfway done. I do know that. In hindsight, I kind of wish I would have added an I-cord edging just to make it have a neater edging along the edges, but that's okay. My mom won't care, I don't think. So it's just super simple garter stitch. I have calculated it out so that I know I need to add about 4 inches per day in order to get it done in time. Her birthday is mid-December, just a couple weeks. And so I want to get this done in time to gift to her by her birthday. So I have it scheduled out that I should have it done by the 8th of December if I knit 4 inches on it every day, which is super manageable. It only takes me about 45 minutes to put about 4 inches into it, which equals about 16 garter ridges. So every day I use this cute little stitch marker that I got from Joy, who sent me a huge box of goodies a couple years ago. And I had kept this sweet little stitch marker for myself from that package of goodies. And it even says Joy on it, so I remember who it came from. And that I am using to mark where I was the previous day, and then I just measure from there 16 garter ridge bumps every day. And yeah, super simple and easy to be able to, manageable to be able to work that much each day. I usually get it done in the morning before we start our schoolwork, but today I slept in a little bit, and so I didn't get all of those rows put in yet, but I'll definitely get it done before the day is over. It's not a problem. So that's super simple. I probably will send this off before I record another episode, but maybe I will have a chance to record a short little video to insert on my next episode just to show it to you as a finished object, but I'll probably want to get this off in the mail to my mom before I record again. So it's just a simple scarf, so you've seen it pretty much. But I really think it'll be nice for her. It's nice and cozy. And I said to her, because the hat that she has Angora in it. I said, I don't have Angora, but I have mohair, which would probably be similar. I hope the color matches. I'm not, in the picture she sent me, I can't really tell if it's this creamy of a color or if it's a little bit lighter. I hope it matches okay, but anyway, it's really nice and cozy. I said to her, mohair can sometimes be a little bit itchy. She goes, oh, I don't think it'll be a problem. So hopefully it won't be. I hope she likes it and wears it. It's really cozy and sweet. I think it's gonna be nice for her. I hope she loves it. My next work in progress is being held in a project bag that I made. Christmassy again. All of my bags are Christmassy right now, which is fun. And after I finished Abby's mittens, as I said, it only used up 48 grams of yarn. So I had 52 grams of yarn left over and I wanted to use them up. So I thought it would be perfect to try out the MUSSELBURGH pattern by Ysolda Teague. I hadn't made this pattern before, but I am really enjoying it. So it's very popular, this pattern, and a lot of times I don't work up patterns that are super popular. For some reason, I'm like, oh no, I want to try something new, but I really wanted to try this pattern. So anyway, it has worked out perfectly for what I wanted using up this yarn. And I really love how it's turning out so far. So the idea, if you're not familiar with the MUSSELBURGH pattern, is that you are basically knitting a huge tube, and it'll turn out to be pretty long, and then you fold the hat into itself so that it's a double thickness. And then it should have a brim, which would then be a 4-layer of fingering weight yarn around your ears, which will be great too. I'm not sure if I have enough. Using 52 grams, I might run out of yarn, and I have another yarn that is really similar that I had in my stash. This is a yarn that I dyed myself. As you can see, it must have been knit into something else at one time. I ripped it out. It's kind of curly, so you can tell that it was knit up into something else at one time. But anyway, those colors match pretty well, and I'm just going to finish off the crown decreases probably using this, I would imagine. And then that will be on the inside of the hat anyway, so it doesn't matter that it's not a perfect match. So I think that'll be fine. And that's also a fingering weight yarn. It does have 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, but that's okay that it's not the exact same, makeup of yarn. I am using US 2.5 3mm needles for this pattern. You also don't need to do a gauge swatch. And you can also use a variety of thicknesses of yarn. You basically start off and then you take a gauge swatch after you've knit at least an inch of material to determine how many increases you do depending on the size that you're making. And so I just started off using these needles based on I looked at some other people's projects and saw what needles they used using fingering weight yarn and went with that. And I'm getting a gauge of 7 stitches per inch. So I just followed the pattern is just really neatly written in that you can knit it at several different gauges, and you just follow the chart that she has included in the pattern to know how many increases you make. So that's great. I am making the child size. And I'm sorry, I'm making the child, it's called the child/adult small size. And, oh, I cast on using the pinhole cast on. I followed a tutorial by Very Pink Knit Swatch, which I will also link to in the description box below. So Abby, if you're watching, I hope that you will enjoy having a hat to go with your mittens. I think that'll be a fun set. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. It's super, super mindless at this point. You're just knitting in the round until I get to about 16 inches, I think. So that is nice and easy to work on whenever I need something where it doesn't take concentration. Actually, all of my projects right now are pretty mindless, so that's nice. My next project is being held in another bag that I made myself. It has sheep and barns on it and scripture from Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. I just love this fabric so much. So when I made these last year, I think, I kept one for myself. So that family that I have talked about, they were over in October, and their girls, just two of their girls, both Abby and Eva, who I made the poncho for, went through my stash, and they were picking out yarns that they would like things made in, because as you know, if you've watched before, I just absolutely love knitting gifts for people. And so Eva had asked me to make that poncho, Abby had asked me to make mittens, and then they also asked me to make some socks, which I haven't started yet, but they also asked me to make asked me to make socks for them, which I will do, and you'll see in the future. But then they also asked, would I be willing to make a pair of socks for their aunt? And I said, yes, of course, just pick out some yarn and let me know what size shoe she is, and I'm more than happy to make gifts for them and their family. So the yarn that they picked out is one that I had dyed, but it was just a one-of-a-kind color. I don't remember when I made this, when I dyed it, or how I dyed it. I don't have any notes for it. I have no idea, but it's a really pretty, lots of oranges and burgundy and burnt orangey kind of colors, some darker brown specks. So it's really fun to work up. So I again cast on 60 stitches using a US 0.2mm needles, and I have done 1x1 ribbing for 20 rounds. And then I am working a ribbed stitch, knit 5, purl 1 for the leg of the sock. And I'm really happy with how this yarn is knitting up. It's super fun and pretty. She wears a size, US size 7.5. So I'm just going to use a chart, probably the chart that Anna of Anna Knitter gifted to me, to know how long to knit these socks. She has that sock knitting chart available on her Etsy shop. If you are interested, I will link to that as well. And yeah, these are, super simple and working up great. So yeah, I'm happy to have those on the go as well. And then my last work in progress is being held in this new bag that I just made for myself. And I'm so happy with how it turned out. It has this sweet ruffle on it, and it's kind of a gingerbread theme. And I just really wanted to make myself a gingerbread themed project bag to go with these Christmassy socks that I am working on. And again, Emma of Potter and Bloom had gifted me some special yarn again this year. She just surprised me several months ago. She sent it to me quite early, it was just such a surprise. Anyway, she sent me this beautiful West Yorkshire Spinners yarn in the gingerbread colorway. So you may have seen this. I have seen so many people knitting up these socks on different knitting podcasts and things. Anyway, this is West Yorkshire Spinner Signature 4-ply in the gingerbread colorway. It is 75% wool and 25% nylon fingering weight. And I was just so thrilled to get this as a gift from Emma, and it was just so sweet of her to think of me. And so I have started my gingerbread socks. Again, I cast on 60 stitches and I did 2x1 ribbing for 20 rounds. I had watched Sarah of Love Sock Wool's most recent episode. She hadn't recorded an episode in quite a while, but had come out with a new episode a few weeks ago, and she was also knitting up this yarn, and she had added in a cream color for the cuffs, and I just loved how that looks. I loved how it looked on her socks. It reminds me of like the frosting or the icing that you put on the gingerbread houses and things like that, and I just loved how it looked with the color stripes and this yarn. So I copied her and I just working up plain stockinette for the legs here. I also made this cute little gingerbread man stitch marker to go on there, or progress keeper. And you can see this is the color stripe. So it goes, you know, the gingerbread color and then a red and white stripe, gingerbread, and then green and white, and then it repeats that. So my plan is to work up that color stripe, one of those color stripes every day if I can. So I knit up the cuffs before December 1st, and then I started knitting with this yarn yesterday on December 1st. I haven't gotten a chance to work on these yet today, but I'm hoping that I can work through another color stripe repeat today, and we'll see how I can, if I can work these up pretty quickly in the month of December. They're so fun. I just absolutely love this yarn. It's so sweet. So I'm really, really happy to have those on the go as well in my new bag. I just love it. So happy with all of my works in progress. I think that is all of the projects that I have to share with you all. But there's one more thing before I end this video. I have just 3 project bags left in my Etsy shop back from a couple of updates ago when I had more floral summery fabrics in my shop. And I wanted to offer those of you who watched this episode a coupon code if you would like to snag up those last few bags that I have in my shop. So if you would like to check them out, here are the 3 bags that I have left. I have one in this green floral fabric with a darker denim contrasting fabric. And the inside is just plain white with flowers on it, so it's white on white. Again, all of my bags have an interior pocket and a clasp with closed stitch markers included. And they all are boxed bottom and drawstring. All of the 3 bags that I have are all in my medium size, which I will put the dimensions of those bags right here so you know how big they are. They're a great size to hold a 2 or 3 skein project. So I have one of these, and then I have 2 in this fabric. So a pretty yellow floral with a more medium colored denim. And the interior on these is a yellow gingham. So those are again, I have 2 of this size, and then in this fabric, and then 1 of the green. So if you would like to snag up these last few bags as a Christmas gift for you or someone that you know, you can use a coupon code Christmas25 to receive 25% off your purchase. So if you would like to snag those up, that would be great. I'd be happy to gift those or get those all off in the mail to you before Christmas. And yeah, I just wanted to offer that as a coupon code for all of you that watch this episode. So I think that is all that I have to share with you all today. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please feel free to leave a thumbs up or a comment down below, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I would appreciate that so much. I hope you all are doing really well. Take care. Bye-bye.